Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, welcome to Agahi with your host, Warisa Zainab, a show on Hidayat TV that talks about your mental health and psychological well-being. Like always, we have invited a special guest, Nidhi Sharma, who is joining us all the way from Mumbai. Nidhi is a counseling psychologist and a growth mindset coach. She provides career coaching, life coaching to many individuals, and she will talk to us further about the brilliant work that she is doing. Now, in today's episode, we are going to talk about the attitudes that we hold, the biases that we hold, maybe at unconscious level, and how it shapes our relationships with the external world and our perceptions. So, Nidhi Sharma, once again, a big warm welcome to Age.
Thank you, Warisa. Thank you for having me back.
Right. So, I'm really looking forward to this discussion because this is something which is kind of, becoming quite popular. And people are now, especially in workplaces and in the corporate sector and many other, organizations are now becoming aware that implicit or unconscious biases exist. So let's
Yes,
dive into the topic.
absolutely. What would you like to know?
So first of all, tell our viewers, Nidhi, what does unconscious bias means? I mean, what does it refer to?
So before we get into biases, first we need to understand what unconscious really means. So human mind is very interesting actually. And from birth till we die, it continues to grow and develop and has memories and experiences. And the way it is supposed to be supporting us in our life, help us to remain safe. That's the primary function of the mind. And it does it subconsciously or unconsciously. Now, to be able to support us to lead a happy life, fulfilled life, with our full potential, with our mindset, attitude, whatever you may call it, whatever is best for us, we all have set of beliefs. I call it the map of our world. And no two individuals have the same map of the world.
Sorry, map of the world.
Yeah, our own map of the world, right? How I see my world is very different from how you will see my world,
Yes.
your world. And how let's say, even if I had a twin, they will also see it, it might overlap, but it will be different, right? So the map of the world is created with the help of our belief systems, values, our thought processes, experiences that help us to navigate through our life.
Right.
Now, when we have that map of the world, if something is thrown at us, it triggers a thought. That thought leads us to feel in a certain manner, which leads us to have a certain kind of emotion, and hence we behave and act in a certain manner. And then we get a feedback from the environment, and then the whole process continues. So before we talk about the biases, first we need to understand that each one of us have belief systems, and it's important to have them.
Yeah.
Having said that, belief systems are supposed to serve us. However, when we start going out in the world, the same belief systems, they can come in the way. And unfortunately, we are not aware of it. It's something that's happening automatically. It's like, we are on a laptop right now. And there is a software that is operating. You and I don't really know what software is doing in the background. Right? It's the same way that the mind functions. So belief systems run our life. And because we are unconscious of it, the same belief systems can create stereotypes.
Right.
Towards a situation, towards a culture, towards a group of people, towards caste, creed, religion, race, countries. I mean, I can just go on and on,
Yeah.
right? So, because they are so implicit in us and we are not aware of them, that they color our vision and our behavior, we call them unconscious biases.
Right. So, Nidhi, you spoke about things that happen at the unconscious level, and how our belief system and our, where we are from, our background, our ethnicity, everything else shapes that belief system. And then that helps us in looking at the world and perceiving people and the exterior world.
Right.
It shapes our perceptions, basically.
Right.
But when you talk about biases, I mean, most human beings hold them, consciously
Absolutely.
or unconsciously. So I would
Absolutely.
like to know, Nidhi, how can one be consciously aware that I have biases? I could be in denial.
Yes, most of us are in denial. That's because, we believe how we see the world is the safest way of looking at
Mm,
it. And unfortunately, because of that, we see the kind of atrocious things that we see in the world. Because what I hold dear is the absolute truth, and there is nothing else. Unfortunately, belief systems, which are supposed to help us navigate the world, when they start becoming rigid, when we start believing this is the ultimate truth and there is nothing else out there,
yeah.
then they become biases. So let's say, I'll give you a very silly example of the bias. When I was growing up, I used to live in the northern India,
Mm,
and the banana that we used to use was green colored.
yeah.
The bark was green colored, right? And I grew up hearing that that yellow bananas are not nice. I don't know who told it to me, but I grew up hearing something like this. And then I shifted to Bombay. And in Bombay, you do not see green skinned bananas at all. You
Mm,
only get yellow bananas.
mm,
And for the longest time, and the longest when I've been in Bombay now close to 30 plus years, I am talking almost 20 years. I wouldn't eat banana.
wow.
Yeah. I wasn't even aware. It was just something that I would say that no, these are not nice bananas, or I just wouldn't buy them,
Mm,
or I would try to look for the green ones, which I wouldn't get any which ways, right? Now it's just a small thing.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Now the repercussion of something like this can be that I would not give banana to my child.
Mm,
Yeah? So now it's passing on from one to the other generation,
yeah.
and he doesn't even know. Right? So it's just such a small little thing
Yeah.
can. This is not really an example, this is not going to impact our life as such, right?
Yes.
As such. But imagine if I held um, perceptions and thoughts about bigger issues. That, for example, that people coming from certain background are only intelligent, let's say,
Mm,
or smarter.
yeah.
Yeah? And now I'm at work and I'm interviewing someone. And the person who comes to me, let's say, comes from Oxford. And I think the people coming from Oxford are the best people. They are very educated and whatnot. Right? Now that, and I decide to hire this person because I'm already biased with that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe I come from Oxford myself. Affinity happens, right? That doesn't qualify the person to be the best worker or best suited employee for that role. Now, I'm not even aware that I have done something like that. And
Mm,
I've not even explored that there can be other individuals who may be coming from a maybe not such a famous university or college or whatnot and can be equally and better qualified. And that's when it starts to make bigger impacts.
yeah.
Diversity becomes a big challenge in any institution or organization when we have unconscious biases. We start to look for culture fits.
And would it also lead to things like discrimination, nepotism,
Yeah, yeah,
within the workplace?
absolutely, absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely. Um, if you look at certain countries which seem to have a political party descending and we continue to believe that they are the best people, it's an unconscious bias.
oh,
Which,
yes.
it's a halo effect, so to speak, that I've seen one person do, and I assume that the next generation will also be as good.
Yes.
And it does, it does. I mean, that is at a larger scale.
Mm,
Okay. But I have a very interesting example, and you're
oh,
going to laugh at this one. So there is a name called Nutan. Okay?
Compton.
In India, Nutan.
New.
Nutan.
Okay.
Nutan. It means new. In Hindi, it is
Right.
Nutan. Yeah, Naya ya new.
Yeah.
I used to have when I was in the junior KG, senior KG kind of there was a girl, Nutan, in my class, young kid, of course, like me. And she used to have a runny nose. And she used to wear a nose ring.
Mm.
And I had never seen anybody wear a nose ring. And for some reason, I believe that was not the done thing. I mean, all 6, 7 years old I was, and imagine this.
Yeah.
And I have grown till date. When I hear the name Nutan, in my head, it rings negative bells.
Right.
By the way, name bias is a real thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So imagine if a Nutan walks into my office and I have to interview that girl, or I see a CV with the name Nutan,
Yeah.
she might be a very, very good worker, might be the best person I could have hired. But imagine my own bias comes and stops me from even exploring that candidate.
So
That's how it
these kind of like biases that you hold, these beliefs that you hold at an unconscious level, or maybe at conscious level, they do negatively impact the workplace environment, and
absolutely.
it could also create a very toxic environment for the
Yes.
employees.
Oh my goodness. Oh yes. Oh my God. Yes. And not only they are biases, because obviously we are kind of stereotyping or prejudice against
Yeah.
something, or we have a rigid attitude towards something. They make us judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
Will you hold the recording for a minute? नहीं मत करो. नहीं मत करो. I'm not wearing the headphones. Sorry. It's making a lot of noise.
We see this, I mean, this is pretty common, and I get to hear this a lot from people, that despite some organizations, despite some workplaces being quite diverse, you'll see different people from different cultural backgrounds who speak different languages, belong to different religious, backgrounds, what have you. But still, there is this element of, toxicity in the environment where that, say, for example, there is one person in the workplace at a senior position who is holding some kind of biases, and then they have their favorites. No matter how hardworking and committed and loyal a team member may be, but they'll still hold their biases on the basis of maybe ethnicity or race or what have you.
Haven't you been reading and hearing about women have to work twice as much
yes.
to prove themselves, right?
And the gender pay gap. That's
correct.
a common one.
Gender bias is an unconscious bias. I don't even know that I have it. Something as simple as stereotyping and saying, "Oh, it's a boy and everything is blue," and "Oh, it's a girl and everything is pink."
Yes.
I mean, yeah, that's gender bias straight out. So absolutely, people at senior levels, and one shouldn't blame them. Okay, we're not aware of our biases. Look, they are helping us to navigate. They keep us safe. As I said earlier, the job of our mind, Warisa, is only one thing: is to keep us safe. That's why we have fight, flight, and freeze.
Yes.
It continues to be there. So, mind has to find what will make me happy and what will keep me safe. And if that requires me to maybe distrust something, then I will do that. Or if it requires me to be wary of something, then I will do that. Right? Or because I don't know. So one shouldn't blame someone for holding an unconscious bias, because we all have it. And it's essential for us to have beliefs. Having said that, today when we talk about mindful leadership, when we are talking about well-being at workplace, it is becoming imperative that we start becoming aware of it.
Yeah.
You cannot be creating a inclusive work culture, especially in the global village that we've started living in.
Yeah.
without addressing what am I really doing? What are these things that might be coming in my way? That might be creating, might not be not creating, but let's say is not allowing me to have the best of what I can.
Lots of workplaces, lots of companies have now introduced this training for their employees, for their team members. And I think there's an unconscious bias test as well that is carried out.
Yes.
How effective is that? How beneficial is that?
So most people who might be from my fraternity listening in, if they are listening in, they wouldn't like what I'm going to say. Look, knowledge is great, but knowledge has no meaning if it is not applied. If I'm not going to be aware of what my behavior is, or how I am taking action in the world that I'm going out to, then any amount of training is not going to help. Having said that, the first step is awareness. So the trainings help in getting to give you an example, I was engaged with a company, an IT company, and one of the topics, I was doing group coaching for the company for about 10 people, and we had about 8-10 sessions, and one of the topics that I had was unconscious bias. And the number of people, almost as high as about 50% of the people after the session came back to me. And I did the session much earlier, the topic much earlier in our engagement. And they kept coming back and telling me that how they're beginning to realize that what they're going to say might be biased.
Wow.
So that is the first step. How many of them can follow it through is something I don't know.
Yeah.
And yet that awareness helps. And not only at work, it helps at home also, in relationships. How easily we say women are like that and men are like that.
Yes.
And we say, that is actually a bad thing for a relationship. Right? How we look upon the younger generation, how we look upon the older generation, these are all biases that come into play.
Yeah, age is another one. I mean, you give a brilliant example of gender biases, but age is another one, and I've seen this in workplaces. No matter how qualified, experienced, learned, and hardworking an individual is, if they've crossed their 40s or 50s, they would rather employ somebody who's younger, fresh out of uni, with less experience, less skills, no references. Just because I think I call this like a form of discrimination, because how can you?
Biases are discriminations.
Yeah.
Biases are discrimination because they are biases ultimately, right? They're judgments, they're stereotypes. Absolutely. I have had friends, so I am 52, I'm going to be 53 soon.
Wow, you just told your age to like thousands of people, everybody.
How does it matter? Everybody is aging.
Yes.
Why I'm telling you that, so some of my batchmates are pretty senior now, in the CXO categories and all of that. And a few of them, when I would talk to them, this is about 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, they would say, when I was 47 and they were about 47, 46, this younger generation is like this, and they do this and they do that, and they have no integrity and they have no honesty and they're not dedicated and they're not how we were. And I would look at them and I used to say, no, I don't know how we were. We were how we were as youngsters, and our seniors saw it like that. And then at the same time, you have the generation, the millennials who are now the workforce, who are about 25, 28, 30. They look at people like me and they think that maybe we've been pulled out of some some rock and brought in here and who absolutely don't have any understanding of what's going on. So it's both.
Yeah.
The younger lots look at the older generation as rigid, as someone who is not open-minded, not accepting,
very set in their ways.
Correct. And the older generation sees the younger lots as people they can't control because they have a completely different mindset. And yeah, the world has changed from when I was at 28, 29 to the 28, 29 that is there today. The world has changed.
Yeah.
So there is that biases. So I hear people say that no, they are all okay, uni educated, but they don't have the experience. They don't know how to do it. How can they lead a team? Well, it just might surprise you. At the same time, I've had, because I work with a company which has an outreach program for people who are in transition. I think I spoke about it last time also.
Yeah.
I have had people who are about 42 to 50 age group coming back and telling me that they're not being hired because of their age. And some people are as blatant as actually saying that, we want someone younger. Unfortunately, in India, there are no I think laws or anybody can fight it, but it's out and out.
Nidhi, as you are speaking, you're talking about India, but this is a global issue. Here in the United Kingdom, yeah, when you apply for a job and say, for example, the interview process goes smoothly and you're called for this final round of interview, or you've been offered that job, when you're filling out the forms, there is a form that covers the equality and diversity bit, like your age, your gender, disability, all of that. The purpose of that form is to ensure that all the candidates or the applicants, they get a fair chance for that job.
Yes.
So there is no discrimination. There is no unfairness in the process. But with your hand on your heart, tell me, how many companies, how many organizations actually utilize that piece of information to create fairness and justice when it comes to employment? And how many actually just look at the names and say, not this one, or no, not that ethnicity? We know these things happen.
Yeah, they happen. They absolutely happen. I don't know the research numbers to the question that you're asking, but I know for a fact that you're asking a very fair question, and people who will listen in can relate to it. They might have done it. They might have been victims of it. I often see. So today, when an applicant's CV comes in, right, there is something called an applicant tracking system, which I think it's been done so that it bypasses the biases. So you have keywords into it so that it picks up only the right skill sets that are needed for the job, and takes away the other demographics that we are talking about, so to speak. And yet, so it might go past that level, but ultimately a human being is going to look at your CV. So unless the person who's sitting and looking at it and is going to be aware and work towards it, and do something about it, well, I personally think that this world is in the state that it is simply because we are not able to open our minds. We're not able to go past the stereotypes that we have decided is the best way.
You gave some wonderful examples, and this just reminds me of another one. I don't know if it's applicable to India, but I know in this part of the world, there's another one, and that's marital status. I mean, there was once a point where you had to actually mention your marital status in your resume or a CV. They don't do that anymore. Thank God for that.
Yeah, it's kind of changing here.
Yes.
Not as much as it is in the Western countries, UK or Europe or US, but so, it is.
There is this assumption again that if you're a married woman with children, you will be less committed.
Yes.
Because your focus will be your children and your family commitments, so you won't be as committed to your workplace. So some prefer you to be a single woman with no children, no liabilities, no other responsibilities, because you will be more productive, or you will be more useful or beneficial for the organization. Now that's a big one, because I've seen so many women, working women who have children, who have other responsibilities, but the way they manage their work-related responsibilities is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And why women? I mean, the fact that you're only looking at women, men are equally responsible. They're also fathers, right? They
Yeah.
also have to do so. Assuming that just because you are a man, you will not contribute towards your children and home is also a bias,
Mm.
out and out.
Yes,
Right?
that's a good point. Yeah, definitely.
So I'm glad that men have started getting maternity leaves. I mean, why not? They
Yes,
need to help
yes,
out. Yeah. So
yes.
that's a shift. That's the awareness, and that's the shift. That is. I believe I have been victim of this marital status when I was starting out in advertising. I used to be constantly asked, you are 22, 23, 24 years of age, and then they would ask you, so are you married? And
Mm.
then they expect you to get married, and oh, so you're married, how long have you been married?
Wow,
You've
that's
been married for 2 3 years, now you'll be ready to have a baby or whatever.
wow.
I was foolish at that point in time, of course. No exposure, there was no internet to know about it.
Yeah.
And I used to find it very offensive,
Mm.
but it is happening. It used to happen then, it's reduced perhaps today, but
It's surprising and it's sad. I mean, even your dress code. Like I remember this is like decades ago. I went for this job and I got the job and it was first day at work and the manager she comes to me and she goes, you know that thing on your head? Do you mind taking it off because I don't want to lose my clients? And I'm like thinking, hold on, what does this has to do with my work? Like I'm sitting in front of a
yeah,
computer, right?
absolutely.
How's
Absolutely.
that even relevant? So I just
Right, bang on example of a bias.
yeah,
Uh, I what I don't use, what I don't know, I don't understand. And if I see it, if I face it, the fear of the new and the fear of the unknown is so huge in my mind
yes.
that I rather eliminate it.
Mm,
Unfortunately, religion, color, caste, the most sensitive of the racism, most sensitive of the issues, are
yes.
simply because I don't know your God from my God, I guess, and
Yeah,
we get scared of it,
yeah,
right? And if only we can, so understanding unconscious biases helps us to understand that there is so much more. There is another perspective than what I have.
definitely.
Yeah. So it definitely needs to be addressed for sure.
Mm.
And yeah,
But I think these beliefs, these superstitious beliefs and assumptions or whatever you want to call them, they stem from like a really early age. Your family
oh,
environment, your
absolutely.
parents,
Oh, yeah.
your culture, everything is going to shape it. So in your 50s, say for example, in your 60s, this is something you have carried, like this baggage, you can say, all your life.
Absolutely.
How will you unload this baggage? How will you start seeing the world differently? Like,
Thank you so much for asking that question. Well, the science is starting to prove again and again and again that the brain cells are neuroplasticity of the mind, right? Brain, which simply tells us that the cells are growing, the mind is expanding. So, till our last breath, the mind can expand. That's the first thing. So, if you can, please, all of you, stop telling yourself that I have become 45 or 25 or 55 or whatever age you might be, and hence now I can't learn.
yeah,
Stop. We can learn. That's the growth mindset. We can learn till the last breath.
yes.
Okay.
From
I went
cradle
into
to
my
grave.
last, sorry,
That's
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only way. If you tell yourself that you cannot change, I have carried this belief with me for 50 years. Well, how did you learn to use the technology then?
Good
People
point.
who are 60 years or 70 years of age today, they have adapted to the technology. They're doing bhajans and kirtans and whatnot, all kind of things they're doing online, right?
Watching
They have
YouTube and using
correct,
social media.
correct, correct, correct. So they're using it. So how is it that you can change that? But
Mm,
when it comes to accepting and
control.
another, you know,
Yeah.
somebody who, let's say, practices another culture, another religion, another way of life, sexual orientation, or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
how is it that you cannot open your mind to that?
I think we choose what we want to change. We choose what we don't want to change.
Absolutely. You know? What threatens us, what we find, we change what is easier, or what we think is essential for us.
Yeah. And also, people don't want to come out of their comfort zones, Nidhi.
Not at all. Absolutely.
Because to make a change within yourself, that's a lot of effort.
Absolutely. Takes a lot of effort. And what I have grown up believing, one of the reasons I believe religion makes so much wars and arguments and whatnot happens is because it's such a strong grounding for each one of us. It helps us to be sane. It helps us to have faith. It helps us to have hope. And when we start to shake that, you are shaking the foundation of it, and that's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my logic, and that's why I think that we are not able to accept another human being and their ways of life, or the way they live and the way they see the world. We just can't understand it. My way is the right way, because your way I don't know, and what I don't know is scary.
Yeah.
So should I change? Why should I accept you? And of course, ego. A lot of biases feed our egos. For example, there is a bias which is called conformity bias, peer pressure, which teenagers go through.
Yeah. Just going to continue on that. Nidhi, you were talking about conformity.
Right. You see peer pressure. The word is peer pressure, which you and I know of. Right? So, teenagers. Conformity bias is something that says that we are going to act and behave in the manner that the group we are aligned to. So if my group, if at the stage or the bandwagon effect, as you may call it, you want to stick around with similar people, you want to go to the similar kind of restaurants and have the similar kind of jobs and dress in the similar kind of manner, right? Today, this is what my group is wearing, and so many things. I'm just talking about the superficial stuff, but for example, my peer pressure, my peers think that eating sushi is the in thing, so I whether I like it or not, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And that leads to so much of mental and financial pressures. So much of that. So yeah, that happens.
Are there types when we talk about these biases that we hold? Are there like different types of these implicit?
Yeah, one of the most common ones is what we call the halo effect, which means that I create positive impression about someone by one characteristic that I have. Very simple. And of course, you have to understand that none of these are working in isolation. So a gender bias will work with the halo effect, will work with the peer pressure, will work with the affinity bias, and there will be 5, 6, 7, 8 of them working together. So it's a very complex process. Right? So halo effect is one of them, and the opposite of that is horn effect. So for example, let's say what you experience about your headscarf. Yeah. There will be people who will see someone with a headscarf and they will immediately decide certain things about the person. Yeah, without thinking that there can be loads of other reasons other than that one reason that you could be having, and the fact that somebody has a choice to do what and live the way that they want to live. So horn and halo effect that happens. Beauty bias obviously happens. Ageism is something that happens. The other one that is a big one is affinity bias. When I connect with people who seem similar to us.
Yes.
I observe this so often that when people from India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or the other smaller countries or African countries, when they move to a country like UK, they all stick together. Affinity bias. It's a comfort zone.
Yeah.
No matter how much people, and I have had this argument so many times, and when I say, look, you shifted to another country so that you can do better, so that you can learn more so that you can grow, go out and do it.
The opposite happens.
Opposite happens, and they say, no, but you know what, we are not accepted, and then we miss the country, we want our own people and our own culture and our own this. All that I buy all of that.
Yeah.
And yet you start living in that little cocoon.
Mm.
Affinity bias. And at workplace,
कुएं का मेंढक,
correct, कुएं का मेंढक, absolutely. And workplace में आप देख लो,
Yeah.
no matter how diverse the workplace is, and I have experienced this, people walking up to each other and saying, hey, where are you from? Oh, you're from Delhi. I'm also from Delhi. Or, oh, okay, you are from XYZ and I'm also. I mean, you suddenly, oh, you're from the same school as I am. So I'm doing some work for a big consulting company, and they hire the top of the, talent from the country, the IIMs and the best of best, okay? And you should see the affinity bias bang on there. Specific colleges will tend to, so like, let's say there is IIM guys are there, and there is IIT guys are there, and IS, these are all big colleges in India, right? They will make groups of their own kinds, affinity bias. And in a space like that, in the name of culture fit, where is the diversity? Where is the inclusivity?
Exactly.
And how have you decided that somebody who is coming from an XYZ town or coming from an XYZ college, or just because somebody has not had the privilege to perhaps go to a college like you, how have you decided that the person is lesser? And how will the culture fit?
Nidhi, you are a growth mindset coach, and I'm sure you know this, that if you want to grow as a person, if you want to develop into something that you are not currently, hanging around with like-minded people all the time is not always a good idea, because you will learn different things. So you have to surround yourself with different kinds of mindsets to have that exposure, so that you can come back home and question yourself. Okay, I heard this today. I've never heard that before. I didn't know this thing exists. Like, those kind of key questions.
Absolutely. And you're so bang on to that. Before you accept something or reject something, okay, so you have accepted something that was told to you.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought that there might be, we live in this huge world, and the internet has exploded as to, and still you don't question? Isn't it?
Yeah.
There is no one way of living, Warisa. There are lots of other ways of living, and to grow, to be able to go past and become more inclusive and diverse, you have to question yourself, and you have to believe that there can be another way. It may not be a better way, may not be, right? But you can always accept another way.
Yeah, true.
And if you don't do that, then how is creative working, which in the workplace, creative thinking and decision making and critical thinking is such a big thing, right? I mean, they remain the top topics of skill topics year on year. How are you doing creative and critical thinking if you don't even know there are other perspectives?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. What other benefits are there, Nidhi? When we let go of these biases, these assumptions, these stereotypes, first of all, how do we shift our perspectives?
We shift our perspective by simply allowing ourselves to be open to the idea that there can be something other than what I have. Right? Yeah. This world, which is now a global village, people discovered each other because someone somewhere in some far land decided to venture and say, oh, okay, there are other people similar. They look a little different. They eat differently. They started to travel. They started to explore.
Just like I found you.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it?
But we both eat Rajma chawal.
So if you open yourself to saying that there can be other experiences, then there will be. But if you shut yourself and say, no, this is it, as you said, then that is all there will be to it, right? So you have to. And experience is the only way that you and I can reach our full potential. Because our potential is so huge that the more we discover, the more we can do better, the more we can, the more we learn, the more we use, the more we I guess we just get connected. And when we do that, we create a world, or the space at least that I live in. Companies talk so much about diversity.
Oh yeah.
It's not.
But
It's
how much
not.
is applicable in real life?
Yeah. Correct.
Talking the talk is one thing, but
Yeah. Actually, I think diversity has come down to two things. One is, differently abled people, and to the third gender and the LGBT. I think it's just gotten restricted to that, and maybe to some extent color.
we don't see growth in other areas, do we?
No, not at all.
Some of the things we don't even talk about. It's as if they don't exist.
Yeah. And I think we need to be inclusive. Not only we need to be inclusive in terms of we need to hire people who are perhaps normal looking also, because beauty bias is a big thing. We want to only hire good looking people, and that's a fact, researched. People who are supposedly good looking get better paid, etc., get lesser jail sentences, etc. So we need to start accepting that people and focus on the talent that people bring to the table.
Definitely.
Rather than the backgrounds they come from. You hire people for the mind and their thinking.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when you do that, there is better decision making. There's higher productivity, obviously. When you are inclusive, you become more creative. When I see your way of life, let's say, I learn something, isn't it? And then I can perhaps pick up something from you and use it for what I'm doing today. So better productivity. And for me, the most important aspect is two. One is, of course, diversity and inclusiveness, which we're talking about, and better relationships.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And when I'm talking about relationships here, I'm definitely not talking about ageism and gender bias. I'm talking about much more deeper things where we, for example, what is called attribution bias. Like, for example, when we try to justify somebody's behavior simply because we seem to trust them, and we attribute that part of the trait to them, or positive or negative, that kind of a thing. Relationships suffer so much when people say you are always doing something like that, you're completely useless, you are lazy, or if you open your mind, then you can.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Nidhi, and also the fact that still we're in 2022 and still so many workplaces, so many organizations and companies, they don't have improved access for people with disabilities. And there are so many people with hidden disabilities.
Yes.
There is no mention about them.
Mental health is one of those disabilities. Emotional well-being is one of those. I mean, if you have a worker who seems to be snapping all the time, or is angry a lot, or seems to be in high pressure, that person is carrying a disability, which is a mental disability. That person is not fully functional.
Definitely.
And that person needs support.
Yeah.
It needs to be encouraged. You need to encourage your employee or your colleague to say, hey, you know what? I'm with you, or whatever you need to do. Maybe start by forcing the person to go and see a counselor or get them a coach or whatever.
Or maybe give breaks. You have sick leave policies in most organizations. What about mental sickness or mental illness? That's also your health.
Yeah.
So why can't we have mental health related leave, or
Yeah. I have a client. She's based out of another country, and I think she's depressed and she's having panic attacks, or at least borderline depression, huge panic attacks. The amount I had to coax her to go and talk to her immediate supervisor that, look, I need some time off. What will people say? They will look at me as less productive. I'm not good enough. It's a complete shame. How can I have happened? It's such a stigma. That and that itself is a bias, to think that that I don't even know how to frame it.
Like we spoke a lot about biases that people hold for others, but what about the unconscious biases we hold for our own self?
Yes.
Our own self, our image. It's like I read this interesting phrase. I want to share this with you.
Please do.
So, what other people think of you, it's none of your business.
Absolutely.
But we spend so much time
So
and
much
energy
more.
in thinking, वो क्या कहेगा, ये क्या सोचेगी, you know, it consumes us.
Consumes us. And not even once do we stop to ask ourselves, मैं अपने बारे में क्या सोचती हूँ या सोचती हूँ.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people think self-love and self-care is about going to a parlor or going to a spa or having
Yeah.
a
Bubble
me
bath.
day. Yeah. And if I do that, I'm selfish. In fact, I just did a video on saying that, well, you know, I am selfish because I love. Because caring for myself has to be my top priority.
Mm.
Absolutely, you're right. And we need to find time to say that, look, I'm not feeling mentally okay. I need to
Yeah.
switch off, or I need to just step back for a day or two, just rest.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I think I don't even need to
Justify
give a
the pain.
justification. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Why do I need to
But I
justify?
think, Nidhi, your true friend or your true, like a person who generally is concerned about your well-being, they won't even question you. They'll just give
They
you that
shouldn't.
space. They'll give you that
They
space.
shouldn't. They shouldn't. But people do.
Yeah.
The number of clients I see who have depression and anxiety, etc., and they are not willing to talk about it to their elders. And elders, what I mean to say is their parents. Unfortunately, most people I'm referring to are younger lots who are about 30, 32 years of age. And you know, in your world and my world, people, our parents still kind of rule us.
Yeah.
They're not willing to talk to them because they don't find support at all. Not at all. They think that you have gone, you are a weak person if you can't even handle
Yeah.
little bit of stress.
Strength is associated with not showing emotions, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
That's another myth.
Boys don't cry, and now girls also don't cry.
Yeah.
Now nobody cries.
When a baby is born and the baby doesn't cry, everybody gets worried.
Yeah, you had it. Yes, absolutely.
But when the baby
Brilliant.
grows up, the baby has no right to cry. Wow.
Yeah,
Nidhi, I'm really sorry, but we've run out of time.
no problems.
And big thank you for taking the time out for Hidayat TV, for sharing, insightful, information about this brilliant topic. Would love to have you again.
Please do. Please do.
Please look after
Anytime.
yourself. And any final message you would like to give?
Yes, the final message is that please trust yourself. You know, we are meant for greatness. So explore that possibility just by opening your minds a little bit.
Beautiful.
Thank you
so much. Thank you, Nidhi. All right, viewers, if you have any questions, comments, feedback to share, or if you would like to connect with Nidhi Sharma, please message us on our Facebook or YouTube page. You can also call in our studio and leave your contact details and we'll get back to you. Till next Saturday, look after your mental health. Assalamu alaikum.